Could Springtrap survive Hellaverse? Let's get into that. It's a question I was asking myself the other day when I was suggesting thumbnails to one of my friends to make. Which, by the way, shout out to you, T Goji, for my other thumbnail for my FNAF 4 video. Love you for that one, brother. But anyways, I decided to ask you guys on my Discord server, what type of video do you want me to make? And we had 3 choices, and you guys wanted out of all of them to make Springtrap versus Hellaverse. Like, could he survive it? So I was like, I bet we gonna make that real quick. Springtrap has always escaped hell and stuff, and you know, escaped a lot of things before his eventual end within the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. So what if he decided to wake up inside of you know, the Hellaverse universe and was like, I don't feel like being here, or he wants to take this place over. And so he decides that he's going to, well, try to kill everybody and take over hell, or do whatever the fuck. Honestly, I don't know. It's just a matchup I thought of. So yeah, the basics for this matchup is going to be using their canon versions. We are obviously going to be using the best possible scenarios. I'm only really going to go over Hasbin's feats, so this is technically Springtrap versus like Hasbin Hotel, mainly because I do not want to even touch the inconsistent mess that is Hell of a Boss. And we're just taking like the best feats, you know, for the characters, you feel me? So yeah. We're gonna obviously start with the categories, like what things I'm gonna be talking about. My usual things for a versus matchup that I've done across my channel is attack potency, the speed the characters have, what type of hacks and abilities they have, and we're just gonna conclude after that, you know, see how that's gonna function. Anyways, so let's get started. Springtrap's best types of attack potency feats mostly comes from his novelization version. While the books are still a highly debated topic, I've already expressed on my channel how the books are shared canonicities to that of the games. While yes, Scott has stated, at least in the case of the Charlie trilogy, that they are in an alternative universe, he's also made it clear, and it's very evidently shown that the Charlie trilogy are meant to be an extension of the games. While yes, they are a separate continuity, they are meant to share elements and tie that of these books to that of the games. He even says how fans want to take a closer look as these impact the games as well. So while the Charlie novels are in an alternative universe, it's very, you know, notable to say how they do have relevancy for the games. It's also good to know, like the Fazbear Fright novels, where Scott also talks about how some are direct to the games and some are not, which we already have context of Stitchline games, the most popular theory about how any book that are Stitchverse related, because they are mostly tied to the games, which is supported by Frailty of the Tales books, and even Return to the Pit, the most recent interactive novel that I bought, and I can tell you that book is very accurate to that of the games. So yeah, I'll mostly be using Afton's variations from those, since his most best feats are that. That's not suggesting that he in the games is weak, though necessarily kind of is, if I ain't gonna hold you. But it's just because the games just doesn't really necessarily have that many types of feats compared to his more expanded novelization version. So Springtrap's best necessary feat is kind of just being above his human self as human Afton, as he states that he is just more powerful than now if he ever was than William Afton, you know, when he transitioned and now called himself Springtrap. Springtrap is William Afton's like the same person who was able to dismantle that of the original 4, Freddy, Bonnie, Chicken, and Foxy within quick succession, and even it stated how he done this. And he is also shown within the FNAF 2 minigames that he is able to take down Withered Freddy physically. So Afton's shown, at least in his human-based form, multiple times that he can kind of just really overpower that of the originals. These are the same originals that can absorb power in the week before, which was calculated to building level, along with knocking down an entire cave, just beating the brakes off the twisted ones, which deductively we could just simply say as multi-city block, but even has calculations that would presuppose that. Yes, I finally got that fucking feat calculated. Technically, based off the size, you can probably even say multi-city block plus. Now, saying that Afton would be above this, considering the fact that he dismantled them, and if we want to use Springtrap, who should logically, and it's bluntly stated how he is simply more powerful, that you could probably maybe wake him maybe one tier above that, like maybe get him to like the tier 7s or even like the low 7C categories of strength. But I digress. Springtrap's other types of attack potency feats should be him logically that of scaling to Eleanor, since he briefly as the amalgamation overpowers her. Springtrap should be comparable to the amalgamation, as the Afton's amalgamation was stated to be weakened and barely hanging on to life, leaving Springtrap as like a more prime version form of Afton that should at the bare minimum be comparable to that of this form. Eleanor, in the disguise of Blackbird, creates a multiple mile storm, which we have calculations in context of being around the small country ranges, or island level. So like island level to small country levels. There is a lot more scaling for Springtrap, but I don't necessarily want to go into that aspect, since both verses have a lot of really good 3D stuff that I don't think I should go and expand upon dimensional stuff, because I mean that would once again just take way too goddamn long and kind of overcomplicate things. So yeah. So I think that's going to be conclusion for Afton's attack potency. Afton's attack potency, you could easily get him from around the multi-city block ranges to that of small country level. Now, let's go over Hellaverse and see the best things that they have. Inside Hellaverse, there's a lot of more really simple feats, but I like to cover the ones that people try to use the most for debates and discussions. Now, the first one we have of the more bigger feats is Alistair destroying Serpentis' ship in the pilot, which was calculated to be around the small town level ranges. Now, I've already discussed the problem with this feat within my Bendy versus Alistair video, but I'll do it again since, you know, people apparently forgot, or I just simply didn't explain it enough at all. Now, the problem with this feat is that we literally see in the very instant that it is caused that Alistair's tentacles, which are the ones that are causing the feat, by the way, get exploded. This would just simply be a contradiction within the basis of the feat, considering the fact that if you commit a durability feat, you shouldn't necessarily get harmed or extraordinarily harmed to the point of death, you know, right after it. This is like, for an example, if I wanted to say that, oh, this character has durability because they survived this thing getting rammed through them and they crashed into a wall. If their body is shown to get mutilated but they're still alive, that wouldn't inherently be a durability feat. That would be rather a major downscale, or it would be just something that's not conventional to the other argument that you're trying to presuppose. So this feat wouldn't necessarily work, and it would just fall as a contradiction. Along with that, most of the Hellaverse feats are done only through hexes, not necessarily like raw attack potency or an attack potency that would generate this much type of energy, you know, off of destructive capacity, you know, because attack potency is the opposite of DC. So I don't want to use this feat. The other types of feats that we have best for the verse is like Vox getting so angry at Alistair that when he shuts himself down, this causes a power outage throughout at least the ring of hell that they are in, which was calculated to be around the city level ranges, being at 63.67 megatons, which is still a pretty impressive feat. I'm going at you. But the best attack potency feat that we have for like Hellaverse in general is going to be like Adam like cutting the Hasbin Hotel in half. This type of feat is pretty impressive and was calculated to be around the mountain level ranges, which is extraordinarily strong. I'm gonna hold you, but sadly this isn't necessarily, you know, as strong as William Afton's. So for the attack potency point, we're gonna have to give that to Afton. Once again, I'm not really using the strongest of Afton's scales. I'm just using a one that, you know, is not doing too much for this video, you know, because I remember how I did like for the bendy one, I went all over the damn place. So yeah, I'm gonna try to do that real quick. Okay, so let's get around speed, and I'm going to start off with Hellaverse's speed since that's a little bit more simpler to go over. The best types of speed feats for Hellaverse so far were usually a bunch of minor subsonic feats, some that really didn't necessarily matter. I do notice that people try to scale the characters off Blitzo, having a feat on RoboFizz when the Lululand episode. I will mention Hellboss. The problem with this, and it's literally acknowledged, is that if you actually pay attention closely to the clip, you actually can see that RoboFizz starts moving, but primarily before the bullets are even start. So this would rather be more of like an aim dodging feat. This is even acknowledged by the same site that people try to use so desperately to use this said feat. So please stop using that feat. The feat's really bad. It's not even the best thing. High MP suck ass for speed anyways. So we have like a bunch of hypersonic calcs for Hellaverse, and with the most prevalent one being Adam's lasers, which was calculated at high hypersonic. While people want to try to call this feat, it should be FTL or something, it wouldn't necessarily be FTL, since by the colloquial definition of FTL, light isn't necessarily supposed to bend. We see in most scenarios that Adam's guitar has definitely a different representation than that of a colloquial light, and it bends, so this wouldn't necessarily be light. It wouldn't be the colloquial meaning of light. It would rather be a different contextual meaning of, well, light. So this calc would basically be sound. We also have Stolas flying through space, but I don't necessarily believe in nearly any Stolas feats, since they're either used in the context of the Grimoire, which even then, if you want to use that, I mean, I could literally pull out an Afton argument in his spiritual form that literally dimension gaps, that concept. Or it has a storm feat, which once again is only with the usage of the Grimoire, which I could literally just say with a dimensional argument that afterwards would tremendously scale above, so it wouldn't even matter. And most of the Stolas feats are usually in the dream scenarios of the songs, not actual scenarios. And even then, it would just simply be like a massive inconsistency with the verse, with how the verse is portrayed. Because I ain't even gonna hold you, like Hellaverse is one of those shows where it's mediocre and it's inconsistent, laughably. We also have other feats like Lucifer catching Charlie in slow motion when she was falling, which was calculated around the hypersonic plus ranges. So Hellaverse would consistently be around the hypersonic plus ranges to high hypersonic plus ranges. So let's see what Springtrap speed's all about. Springtrap at the bare minimum should once again be comparable to that of his Agony creations like Eleanor and Pit Bonnie. The same Pit Bonnie that is shown within the recent book of Return to the Pit, of how he is able to react to that of rifles and guns, which was calculated to be around the hypersonic plus that of ranges. Along with that, he should be comparable to that of Eleanor, who the same character in her Blackbird form was able to move in nanoseconds, which was calculated to be around the FTL to FTL plus ranges. There's also other characters that have possible FTL feats, like Mimic, if you want to use his assertion within of the Tales book, or even use the Marionette's assertion within You're the Band to have her at massively hypersonic. So a lot of other feats that could get Afton in higher ranges than out of Hellaverse. So the speed advantage would also go to Afton. Now let's go over Haxes, and yeah, that's totally fair. Am I right? Yeah, that's incredibly fair. I'm not gonna go over Afton's abilities since that would require, well, an entire Yap session. If you guys want an in-depth of Afton's abilities, then you guys could simply watch my full scaling video on Afton. It is kind of outdated since there's a lot of things I do agree upon now, or I disagree upon. Well, it's mostly agree, but you get the point. But to put it simple, Afton should have Remnant Physiology or the Remnant Manipulation, which would grant him immortality, soul manipulation, resistance to that of soul manipulation, and I usually argue due to how heavy the connection is and due to how he is conceptually within the verse, I do usually try to argue that Remnant is in a way its own conceptual manipulation aspect. or we can just simply say with equipments that often with the death cone would have death manipulation or just existence eraser by simply just even using it. He also would have like resistance to fire manips and even low mid regeneration as shown within Man of Room, as he got burnt to a crisp yet was recovering most of his skin in the process. He also even has the infamous death touch, which allows him to touch a person and insta kill them instantly. This was mainly shown when he decided to possess the Stitch Wraith body with Andrew and Jake and infected it with himself, causing that instance. He also even would have an indomitable will, since even his own existence is able to defy that of the laws of nature, of his strict endurance. And also soul manipulation, as even on life support Afton was able to try to reach into that of Arthur's soul. So with that out of the way, and that's only a couple of Afton's hexes, because once again, I'm not going to go over all of them motherfuckers. I ain't going to hold you. So what type of hexes does Hellaverse have, or the best types that they have? Well, for the most part, there's not really an insane amount of hexes with characters, since most of those are within musicals that don't really have actual heavy meaning to that of the plot. But if you wanted to use musicals, we basically say reality warping, creation, summoning, likely even clairvoyance, fourth wall. I'm using Alistair and mostly Vox as example. Or if we wanted to go by the cosmology and physiology of the characters, then you would only really have them having one type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7 immortality, or even things like biological manip, or just resistances to hexes that don't really have any actual meaning. I also see people mentioning, oh, well, they can't die unless it's angelic weapons. Okay, cool, but they can still get their shit overpowered and still, well, generally be overpowered. It's not a to the death type of thing. If we wanted to do that, then I could probably maybe do with an angelic weapon or something. I don't think it would really matter at all if they're using, a fucking angelic spear or not. It simply would not really matter. And the people who want to use, okay, well, can Afton revert, be resistance to reality whipping and stuff, through the context of Man of Room, which is meant to be a parallel to that of UCN. And if you want to use UCN Golden Freddy's abilities necessarily on Afton, which I'll just screenshot Golden Freddy's abilities that I have accounted for UCN and some abilities in general, then Afton would have resistances to this. So yeah, take that if you were trying to maybe say that in the comments below. But with that all the way, who truly wins this battle? Can Springtrap actually survive a day within the Hellaverse, or let alone maybe take it over? And the short answer is fucking yes. Springtrap not only vastly surpasses the verse in terms of attack potency, vastly surpasses the verse in terms of speed, which let alone doesn't even reach if he gets his physical body destroyed and he just becomes his spiritual entity, which is arguable for being 7D or even let alone higher if you want to use other things within the cosmology. And of having vastly so much hexes and resistances to hexes that you might as well just try to call this comparing Goku to that of a fucking Deku or an ant. So yes, Afton would absolutely mutilate the entire verse within probably a few minutes or even seconds if it's the entirety of the verse. So Afton would win this at a good low div. I'll probably say due to the sheer numbers of the entirety of the verse, I'll just say low mid diff for this video. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, as I am trying to be a little bit more consistent and not post pretty much nearly every month. So hopefully this video does well. If you like more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you can be notified every time a new video goes live. And without that, this is The Unknown. May God bless y'all, keep y'all, peace.